I'll start off today just a little bit. I had a whiz trip to Washington, D.C. for a meeting there, and it was really helpful. There were a lot of very knowledgeable people who were there. And for example, one of the things we talked about was the big, beautiful bill, and authorities that are pretty authoritative, say that they think it's going to pass here very shortly. And then once that gets off the plate, then they can move on to some other things that will stop taking all the oxygen out of Washington, D.C. right now. But one of the things that they handed out to me from the White House was that the long run wage increase for if you're a person in Michigan would be $5,200 to $10,000. And the take-home pay increase would be from $6,900 to $11,700. This is just for a Michigan resident. And so they've calculated it based on all the states, which I thought is pretty interesting. And then I was really excited to see at this conference, they started off the conference really giving 1 hour of the agenda to the Election Integrity Network. So Cleta Mitchell, who is the founder of Election Integrity Network, and then Sharon Bemis, who is the current president of Election Integrity Network, and Carrie Talazzo, who is the executive director of Election Integrity Network, both spoke, or all three of them spoke, and they gave a lot of attention to Michigan. I like to think it's because we truly deserved it, but it's also probably because I was one of the states represented in the room. So, but it's true. Our state is doing phenomenal things, and it's because of the folks on this call, really, that Michigan was able to represent the people during the last election, not so much people who might do otherwise with our ballots. So, thank you. The other things that they did a lot of really interesting research on what the American people are polling at, which was there's a lot of support, huge, like 80% or more of the public do not want non-citizens to vote. And so we'll be having Paul Jacob here with us today, talking a little bit about what's happening with 2 non-citizens petitions that were brought forward to the Board of State Canvassers and where we're going from there. So I'm glad to see Paul has joined us here. So I'll introduce you right up top of the agenda, if that's all right, Paul. Let me just give folks a little background on Paul. Paul, oh, here he is. Yeah, here I've got it. Garrett filled me in on you a little bit, Paul. So you have recently, you've been a leader of successful citizens-only voting ballot initiatives in 14 other states, including 8 in the last November 2024 elections. So that's very impressive. It included Iowa, Idaho, Kentucky, North Carolina, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Wisconsin, and previous initiatives in North Dakota, Alabama, Colorado, Florida, Louisiana, and Ohio. And notice, Colorado is no longer a red state. A lot of these states you would not consider to be red states. So I'm very happy to say that every single one of these initiatives Paul has helped to organize and ensure that only citizens vote has been successful in their state. So I'm really proud to have him here today to talk about Michigan's ballot initiative and to ensure that only citizens vote and require voter ID in our elections. So thank you so much for joining us, Paul. And I'm sure first off, people are going to want to know, what are you going to do with the 2 ballot initiatives wanting the same thing? So please fill us in. Thanks for joining.
It's a very, very fair question. Patrice, thank you very much for the invite. And we have had great success around the country on citizen-only voting. But when I think of Michigan, I think back to 2022 when I worked on Secure My Vote. And I'll go into that a little bit more as we go here, but we are not going to have 2 ballot measures that are competing on the ballot. We're going to, if we work really hard, have 1 on the ballot that I think will make a world of difference. And I'm talking with Brian and Charlie Spees, who helped draft their measure, and our attorney, Eddie Grime, who had drafted one. People are talking. The biggest challenge is to get the resources together to be able to launch a paid drive. And so that's really the key. But I'm pretty confident that we will have a unified effort. And I can tell you without any doubt that there's not going to be two. We're not gonna be able to raise the money to do two, and of course it would be insane to do two that are dissimilar. And
Yes.
we think we have better wording. I like our wording better than theirs, but I would vote for Brian's wording in the New York Minute if I got a chance. And I think they would say absolutely the same thing about ours. They're not totally different. They're very similar. A few differences. We have more enforcement. We spell things out a little bit more just because we're afraid that if you have a Secretary of State like Jocelyn Benson in office, you better spell everything out, because otherwise the Secretary of State's not going to do the right thing. And I just had a chance where I'm sitting to meet Ruth Johnson for the first time. I've talked to her before, but this is the first time I got to meet her in person. And of course, she's just very, very engaged and happy to see this going forward. Michigan has had some great secretaries of state like Ruth, like Terry Lynn Land, like Candace Miller. And so I think we're going to have a ton of support. The real challenge is to get the money together and get the grassroots organized and going. But my experience in 2022, I've joked that over the last couple of months, I keep thinking to myself, what are you doing going back to Michigan? Because my experience in 2022 was awful. The infrastructure to do the petition drive wasn't really in place. I had donors who had invested significant money in it and ended up moving to Michigan for 4 months. And or my wife would say 4.5, and trying to secure my vote on the ballot. We would have been on the ballot. We eventually collected enough signatures, but of course that Prop 2 that the left came with, that ran ads saying they were etching voter ID into the Constitution, there's a lot of dishonesty in politics, but boy, about as dishonest as you could be, because it etched into the Constitution in Michigan that you never have to show a voter ID and your ballot will still count. All you have to do is, sign your name and say, I am who I say I am. So, but the one thing that I took away from my experience in 2022, other than a lot of angst, was I was just amazed at the energy at the grassroots. Our paid petition effort, I eventually realized wasn't going to happen, and came in and did everything I could to rescue that. But what kept us in the game was and I don't know what the exact figure was, but I'm thinking it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 150,000 signatures through the mail, by volunteers. So at the grassroots, this was a tremendous effort. And so I'm excited about Michigan in 26, in large part, as I think all of you are excited too, that you've got an open U.S. Senate seat, you've got an open governor's race, you got an open race for AG, you've got an open race for Secretary of State, you've got both houses of your legislature that could swing either way. You've got 3, maybe 4 congressional districts that are competitive. I mean, a lot of states don't have one. And so we see this 86 election, 86, 26. Hopefully I'll make it to 86. Anyway, but we see this as a huge opportunity, and Michigan is so important, always has been. But the last 2 times that a Republican has won the White House, they took Michigan. And when they haven't taken Michigan, they don't win the White House. So not only do we have all that on the ballot in 26, but getting Michigan to be stronger in the red column is critical to the future beyond 26. So anyway, I was expecting that the Board of Canvassers would take up and approve our petition form this Friday. There's some question why they didn't and why they pushed us off, but I'm told from different legal advice that there's nothing legally that forces them to put us on. And so we don't see some way to challenge it or something. Anyway, to make a long story short, in terms of our going through the Board of Canvassers, the posthumous petition has been approved for a couple months. We have another petition that we filed that they approved a summary on, but we made some changes that we think are improve it a lot. That one we will get the summary approved by July 13th. And July 13th is a Sunday, so they're likely to set that meeting of the Board of Canvassers the July 10th or July 11th, Thursday or Friday. So we won't be able to start until then. But my goal is to see this thing launch the middle of next month. We would have 6 months to get the signatures. We don't have to take all 6 months. We could collect those signatures in 3 or 4 months. And that is our intention, because the longer it goes on, the more the opposition can think of dirty tricks to do. We want to have all the time at the end to be doing, we're going to be checking every single signature will be validated and checked. Dupes will be removed. Any fraud that's caught will be dealt with. So it's the petition process everywhere has gotten a lot more complicated and a bigger fight, but nowhere is that more true than in Michigan. So this petition drive is no walk in the park. We're prepared to come in strong in terms of paid circulators. We've already talked with a number of different companies who are chomping at the bit to do stuff, and different canvassing operations and so on. But also we will very aggressively be in the mail, and we'll be looking, we're talking with someone who to run a volunteer effort around the state, and I've been talking to different activists and leaders of different Republican clubs and county parties and so on. And I've just started. We'll be talking to a lot more, but the response is, just off the charts. So I believe we need 446,198 valid signatures to put this on the ballot. We think that means we have to collect about 650,000, maybe even as many as 700,000 if we want a little extra cushion, which when you get there, you always kind of like having a little extra cushion. And, but I believe we can get 200,000 or more of those from volunteers out there knocking doors, going to events, and getting those signatures in the mail. And the nice thing about volunteer signatures and signatures you get in the mail, the validity is about 90%. So with paid circulators, you're going to have a higher, about 70% are valid usually.
So if I could just bring in, we've got to run a little bit shorter here, but
Okay.
The question in here from D is, are you working with other folks? And Phil Eisen, Trent England, Jason Sneed, we've been working with them a lot on ranked choice voting. And also they're, very involved in things like National Popular Vote. Are they involved as well with only citizens voting? And the Election Integrity Network, of which we're a part, is very involved with only citizens voting as well.
Yes, they've all been involved, helpful in the different states that we did last time. For years we were doing states, and it didn't have as much, attention. But last year, this issue really, really took off since Biden decided we didn't need a border, and 20,000 Chinese nationals of military age were okay to just come across the border, that sort of thing. The issue has really captured not just those of us who are active in this, but the public as a whole. And Jason Sneed has been very, very helpful in different states, especially Missouri, where we put that on the ballot, and it was both citizen only voting and a ban of ranked choice voting. And of course, you guys here in Michigan may see ranked choice voting on the ballot with the Democrats trying to put that on. But they have been helpful. And I think this is the unifying issue out there. And most importantly, I think from folks who are thinking kind of strategically, it's critical next year that we get out our vote. And this is an issue that'll do that.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining. I hope you can come back on a regular basis and keep us updated.
I'd be glad to do that. Super.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Appreciate it very much, Paul. Appreciate all you're
Thank
doing.
you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Kristine, and everybody knows Kristine is our leader for communications. And Kristine is going to announce some really interesting things today. For one thing, Michigan Fair Elections 3-year birthday is coming up next month. So we're going to be celebrating. So go ahead, Kristine.
Well, I'm delighted to, well, first of all, I kind of want to repent publicly because in the past, I have, given you the number of weeks until election day. I think that's the wrong messaging. So I'm repenting of that messaging. And the reason I am is because Michigan Fair Elections Institute isn't just about election day. We are about elections. 12 months of the year, all the time, year in, year out, we're about elections, not just election day. So while, that November election is very important in Michigan, I mean, we all know that. Mr. Jacob did a great job of ticking off all the elected positions that are open and will be on the ballot in November. So it is, there's a lot on the line, a lot at stake. But nevertheless, our organization, which began, as Patrice talked about, 3 years ago, is about elections all year round. Now, but in the near term, next week, we have not that this News at Noon is not in itself great, but next week's News at Noon, which will be a celebration of our 3rd anniversary, is really going to be outstanding. And so I just want to let you know who our speakers are going to be. First of all, we'll have one of our speakers will be our very own Cleta Mitchell. She's going to be back, helping us celebrate Michigan Fair Elections' birth. Also on our program will be Mike Lindell. Now, of course, in it of itself, Mike has been so very involved in elections, but he is just coming off a decision in a defamation suit that he's going to be telling us about. It was a defamation suit not dissimilar to what happened to Alex Jones and InfoWars. So he'll be bringing us up to speed on that. Perhaps a lesser known name is John Eastman, who is an outstanding attorney who, Patrice, correct me, I believe his expertise is constitutional law.
That's absolutely right.
And he was a defender of President Trump and has recently been disbarred in the state of California. He'll be telling us about that ordeal and how all of that came about. So we're going to have 3 great speakers, and we've got some great speakers coming up. So and of course, on July 4th, we will be launching our newly revamped website, and it's going to be, as they say, new and improved. You're going to want to see it, and it will launch on July 4th.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, we're very excited. Everybody that we've reached out to has said, yes, they'd love to come on unless they're, on vacation or on the moon. So anyway, so yeah, we're very excited about this. This is terrific. So, and that leads me actually, Roy Maynard has been on once before, but you may not remember. It's been a little bit of a while. Roy is a senior writer for Texas Public Policy Foundation, and he founded the Associated News Network. And this is, how AP and Reuters have gotten very biased on one side. Well, John is trying to level out the playing field. And last week, if you followed, I wrote a series of 4 a four-part series on China's involvement in Michigan and influence in our elections. And he recently published that on the network. So I asked if he would come today and tell us about the network and fill us in, Roy. Thank you for coming.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me. I'm just an old newspaper man. Uh, 30 years in the business. I was at the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, Houston Chronicle. My last 15 years, I was editor of the Tyler Morning Telegraph in Texas. Um, and my newspaper went the way of many newspapers, and it died under me. But that same week, the Texas Public Policy Foundation called me and said, "Hey, we're looking for a writer, and we thought of you." So I was very happy to jump over to TPPF. There's not a lot of process difference between writing editorials every day, which I was doing, and writing op-eds for a think tank. So it was a good match. I've been there about 8 years now. But let me talk about the Associated News Service. So let me tell you how it came about. I was out doing a piece in California on homelessness. We toured the worst parts of the state. We toured the Tenderloin in San Francisco, downtown Sacramento. We toured Skid Row in Los Angeles. Uh, and coming home from that trip, I didn't bring those shoes home. That's how bad it was. You know, the things we were walking through, and you know, the drugs, and it was bad. And coming home from that, I realized the mainstream media is never coming back. If they're so willing to cover up, you know, the human tragedy that's happening in, you know, with the homelessness issue, they're gone. So I started thinking, what can we do for the folks that are out there that are still doing good work? There are still great journalists out there, including Michigan Fair Elections, uh, big shops like the Daily Signal, smaller shops like the Dallas Express. Uh, but at the time, it seemed like we were all working from foxholes when it was a trench war. There were real advantages that the AP gave me as a newspaper editor in Texas. One of them was just content that I could count on, that I could run. You know, of course, the AP content is flawed and biased, and I'm the first to say that. And the AP has abandoned objective journalism. So my goal became to find out ways that we could help the objective journalists that are still out there. And by pulling some of the concepts from the Associated Press and applying them to our folks, you know, I think we're really able to do that. So let me tell you the three parts of the Associated News Service. The first is content sharing, and that's pretty simple. That's exactly what the Associated Press does, and does well. You know, when I was, you know, with the Tyler paper, for example, it was kind of a reward. If you did a really good story, I'd say, "Hey, we're going to put that one on the wire," and reporters loved that. It helps your propagation. It gets more people's eye on your work, which is what we all want anyway. So for the content sharing, we built a website, associatednewsservice.org, um, and on that website, that's our platform for content sharing. So my editors can upload content that they want to share with everybody, and then download stuff that they want to run. Now, they can be confident in the quality and the political biases or lack of bias in it, because members of the Associated News Service all sign on to our statement of ethics and best practices. So that means that an editor can do just exactly what I did when I was at the newspaper. Was I see a hole I need to fill, I look for something appropriate on the wire, and I slap it in. Pretty simple. But it goes beyond that. The Daily Signal, for example, is kind of the flagship national publication of the independent and conservative media. You know, that's the Heritage Foundation's journalism arm. It's now spinning off into its own thing, so it's not quite as tied to Heritage as before. And that has allowed them to get a reporter into the White House press briefings every day, and that's just been wonderful for us. So that's the content sharing part. Because we've got lots of folks like y'all, like Michigan, and I've got like the Arizona Free Press, I've got the Tennessee Wire, a bunch of publications out in the non-DC and New York world. You know, the Daily Signal loves that. They love being able to pull content from around the country that they didn't have access to and they didn't have reporters to cover. So it's been helpful. The second part is collaboration. And that's important because it was something I leaned on pretty heavily, you know, as a newspaper editor, when I would, because it allows you to give context and depth to your reader that you wouldn't be able to do on your own. So here's an example. You know, let's say that on Wednesday morning, I get an email from the AP saying, at noon, we're going to move the new FBI crime numbers. Okay, great. So I call my crime reporter over and say, Kenneth, I want you to go get me the local numbers, talk to the sheriff, talk to the chief of police, and let's put those on top of the AP piece. What I had done when I did that was I gave my readers a lot more depth and context to the story. So this enables us to do that, but it's not just working with each other on issues like that. We've also led some big projects, collaborative projects. So as a kind of proof of concept, we took a team of reporters down to the border before the election. We met with public officials, which is important, but what I think is even more important, we talked to real people. We talked to people who are affected by it. We talked to the ranchers and farmers whose buildings and lands were overrun by the cartels, you know, bringing dozens of people at a time through. I was very pleased in how that project turned out. We ended up with 3 long-form news features, very in-depth. We published them simultaneously on all of the participating outlets, and you know, again, it was just a very useful. In fact, it was so useful and effective. I'm not going to take credit for it, but about the same time, the AP sent 6 reporters down to the exact same place we went. So down to El Paso and to Juarez. We went over and spent a day in Juarez. So that's the collaboration part. The third part is professional development, and that's developing as we speak, but mostly that's just me. I'm available to mentor editors and coach writers. And, you know, especially if you're a startup news outlet, we've seen a lot of think tanks moving towards starting news outlets. I can come in and be a consultant on that. I can help you with that. There is absolutely no problem that can arise in a newsroom that I have not already failed at. So I can give you lots of ways not to address some of those problems. But in addition to the less formal mentoring and coaching, we're developing an online program. I'm not happy yet with what we've got, so we're playing with some formatting, but we're going to have basically a journalism school for independence and conservative media, just to cover some of the basics, because some of the outlets, for example, the Texan.news, Connie Burton's outfit, she won't hire a journalism graduate. Now I get that because I hired my share of journalism graduates, and you know, I was never really pleased with what I got. And I would also add that I failed the only journalism class I ever took. So I'm not impressed with journalism degrees. That being said, there's some basics, some fundamentals that some of the reporters may not have picked up. You know, how do you submit an FOI request? How do you do a correction well? How do you do a correction properly? Just things like that. We had a class on how to develop sources that I thought was a lot of fun. So things like that we want to help folks develop. But yeah, so that's what we're doing. The Associated News Service. It's free. Um, we have some donors that were very generous and liked the vision, so they're funding it for at least the first 2 years. After that, it may become a subscription-based service, very low membership fee, just enough to keep the website going, and just to keep a little bit of budget there. It won't be high. I remember the last check that I saw that we sent to AP, and this was probably 10 years ago, was for $7,000, and that was for 1 month. So we won't be anything like that. We'll be, maybe 4 or 5,000 per year, per outlet. We'll also have individual memberships for freelancers out there that want a little bit of, gravitas behind them. They can say, well, I'm with the Associated News Service now, which might open some doors that they're being a freelancer might have trouble opening. So that's the professional development. Really, that's what we're doing. And if y'all have any questions, I love talking about this, so I'd love to answer them.
Anybody have questions? Okay. Well, thank you. While you've been talking, I put the 4-part series in, all but part 1. I don't think I got to part 1 yet. But thank you for republishing that. That was great. Do you know when you publish what type of circulation you get from something like that?
We haven't figured that part out yet. We haven't figured out a way to clock the downloads. So really, I'm just doing a Google search a few days later to see who else picked it up. But we're working. We're still developing the website, still improving it, and that's one of the things I want to do. Is I want to be able to gauge, how much traffic a piece is getting.
Well, I think it's fantastic.
Were there any other questions?
Oh, are there any hands up? I'm not seeing any hands. So if your hand is
Okay.
up and I'm not calling on you, just speak up. But I'm not seeing a hand up. So thank you very much, Roy. We appreciate your joining us, and we appreciate what you're doing to level the playing field out there, because it really, I think it's like 90% left compared to 10% that's conservative, or what you might even call just objective journalism. So when it comes to
I
politics.
agree.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank y'all for
Appreciate it.
having me.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right. Now, everybody, actually, Sheree Ritchie had suggested that we move the All-Star Award into the middle of the agenda, because sometimes people leave and they don't hear who's getting it. And I think that's so appropriate, because our All-Star winner today has been nominated by several people, and that is Sheree Ritchie. So hopefully we'll get to see her cry on air. That's always fun. But as you may know, the All-Star Award is given by basically folks here on this call and in the network nominating people. And it can be people that are doing things at any kind of level within the organization. And Sheree has been steadfast in going into Lansing, meeting with legislators. She hand-delivered the law books to the legislators. She testifies very frequently. She goes and she supports our folks who are testifying. This is going to a very well-deserved award winner this week. So thank you, Sheree. And is there anything you'd like to say?
Yes, and I am tearing up. Yep, here it goes. So the first thing I'll just say is yesterday was my birthday, so this is a wonderful birthday gift. But I just want to say to all of you that I'm so honored to be able to do what I do for all of you, on behalf of all of you. I feel like every time I'm in Lansing, you're all with me, and I'm just very proud to do it, and it's been an exciting and wild ride that continues to veer off into all new directions every time I'm there. And it's been a lot of fun. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of sacrifice, of course, but that's what we all do. And with service comes sacrifice. So thank you so much for the award. And I saw lots of emojis popping up. Thank you all. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Sheree. And Rosemary was on the earlier call with us, and she said she's got hers framed and on the wall. So maybe you can have that decorated in your wall here soon too. Thank you. All right. So next up is our favorite commentator. This is Tim Vetter. We all know Tim. He's been with us from the beginning, and now he's co-chairing the DEEP team, which is the Data Evaluation of Election Processes. I think that's what I might have butchered that, but Tim always has breaking news for us, and today he's not going to disappoint us either. Go ahead, Tim.
Thank you, Patrice. Sound check coming in.
Yep.
Earlier, we talked about where are the source videos for the Election Integrity Committee in Lansing. So I just put the link in the chat earlier, so you could scroll up and get it. Just as a note, the DEEP team, myself and Braden Jacobazi, we were able to represent MFEI and the DEEP team on the June 3rd. You can see it right here. And the other thing that I want to share here is you'll see there's a YouTube equivalent to the same archive of all the videos. And here you get to see the view count. As a data person, you know, we kind of hone in on that. And Bonnie and I, we're good buddies. So he and I, we look at these little things. His video is about 1 month older than ours. He's got almost 800 views. You can see it here. And the DEEP team, we're coming up close to him. We're at 550 views. So we're pretty excited about the counts. You know, it was a fantastic presentation. We had an opportunity to talk a lot about the data manipulation going on with the vote history records. And of course, Bonnie, he had the opportunity to talk about the registration and how Check My Vote does the registration. They go hand in hand, and it was a perfect complement between the two. So as a result of the DEEP presentation, I want to just give a quick shout out to Kristine Christlieb, who put this article together, because there were 2 representatives on the committee that falsely stated that they believed lost information was part of a redistricting. Now, there were 2 districts redistricted, 13 and 25. District 13 was redistricted. District 25 was not redistricted. So why did the data go missing on both districts? So it's just a simple logic and common sense explanation that we were happy to educate others on. So that's one article. Now the other article, as a follow-up to the presentation in Lansing, we got the DEEP team got to collaborate with Seth Kessel, writing for MFEI, and he focused on that same MIT study compared to the Heritage study. Now, funding sources, left-leaning sources, right-leaning sources, guess what? The ranking of the states, left-leaning funding gave you left-leaning results in the ranking, where Michigan was ranked number 2. Right-leaning funding gave you right-leaning ranking, where Michigan was ranked relatively low. But the point that we got to point out here was our presentation in Lansing focused on world-class systems. So when you scroll down, you'll see that Seth did an outstanding job highlighting the data and how the data and the metrics cause the scoring to go in different directions. So the first set of bullets was the MIT, second set of bullets, Heritage. The third set of bullets was what DEEP contributed to, which is a world-class election system, which is independent of left or right funding. It's just common sense. So you'll find these articles if you go to Michigan Fair Elections, you go down to the news section, and there are links to these reports. So I'm going to back up a little bit, because I'm going to get into the other item that Patrice wanted me to talk about, which was the DEEP team is making headlines again with our Secretary of State and the elections. I'll tell you about that in a second. Backing up, we gave a report. This report was dated late January of this year. We did an 83 county FOIA of the November election, and we put out a lot of results and a lot of data. We got a report to that effect. The key thing is which counties gave us data right away, which counties did we have to pay for it, which ones just didn't even reply, even after diligent follow-up calls. So this was this was our first stab at an 83 county FOIA. So, not to be outdone, we did it again. I want to say, first of all, the reason we did an 83 county FOIA was for the first time ever, the Secretary of State did not publish election results on December 1st. So you had a November election. They were supposed to publish election results. They didn't. They excluded that data. Why? We don't know. But as soon as the DEEP team did an 83 county FOIA, the state of Michigan published those darn statewide results shortly after. Well, guess what they did this time? So I'm building up to it, Patrice. So this go around, guess what? For the second time in a row, they did not publish the May special election results. June 1st happened. We're looking for the statewide data. It's not there. So, the rumblings are in, are we going to do another 83 county FOIA? We kind of sat on that for a little bit. And so we went ahead and we published, and I want you to see here, we said, yep, we pulled the plug. We pulled the trigger is what we pulled the trigger. We put out that 83 county FOIA, but we also improved our workflow. So as you can see right here, we have our own email address. So all of these emails that we sent out to all the clerks and deputy clerks and FOIA contacts, all was put into a single area. That was very key because that improves our ability to track and monitor all the responses. And as you can see here, the other key thing in this FOIA is we did this on behalf of Michigan Fair Elections. Big difference, as opposed to the first time we did it, we were not on behalf of Michigan Fair Elections. This was before we joined forces, right? So with this go around, we have a more collaborated team effort. And so what happened as soon as we sent this out, 3 days later, 3 days, it didn't take long, we get this memo from Adam Fracassi, Deputy Director of Michigan Elections. He sends out this memorandum saying, hey, you clerk, we know you got an email from Michigan Fair Elections. Don't get them voting type. You consult your lawyers, but we don't want you to give them voting type because they explain it in this memo. Now,
tell people what voting types mean. What do you mean by voting types?
Oh, thank you, Patrice. So voting type would be whether you voted in person, absentee, or early. Now, why don't they want us to have those methods of voting? Because over a year ago, we were documenting all the times that they're flipping in-person voting to absentee. All the discrepancies, that's what we were doing as a DEEP team. That was one of the 6 data manipulation items that we presented to Lansing. We call that vote switching. And the solution that the Secretary of State and BOE came up with was, we can't have them documenting this. We were finding differences between the state data and the local data. So what they decided to do is they came up with this reason saying, there might be one voter in this one precinct that you might be able to figure out how they voted if you combine the data and do a couple backflips. So what they decided to do is, we're going to give no data for any voter in Michigan for any past election. They scrubbed everything. And so you have the current lawsuit, which is a Montravati lawsuit, is they're saying, you're throwing the baby out with the bathwater. We have a right to see this information, and your argument does not make sense. So that's the 83 county FOIA. And then the last thing I want to cover is our dashboard. So Patrice asked me today, where do we stand on our current 83 county FOIA? And as you can see here, we can present at any given day, and we're constantly updating the initial tracking data. You can see all the tracking data here, but it is all summarized into a dashboard. So with the 83 county FOIA, there were 17 that did not have special elections. So we're expecting data from 66. So far, we have 44 results. So 44 would be the sum of, we've received 27 lists of voters, and 8 of them requested fees, and 9 of them asked for extension. So that's the current status. Bottom line is a lot of the data that we're receiving, nearly all of them are following the direction from the state of Michigan. They're not giving us the vote type in violation of FOIA, I want to add. The other thing is happening is when you send FOIA to 83 different clerks, just like we presented in Lansing, we're getting 83 different results and how the data is presented to us. There should only be one format for a list of voters. So there's going to be future articles coming out of this study. And that's my report, Patrice.
Great. Thank you so much, Tim. Questions? Anybody? Speak up if you have a question. I can't see with the screen filled up with Tim's lovely presentation. Go ahead.
I actually have a comment for Tim. Hold on, my phone's going wacko.
Yeah, it's bad. Your sound is bad there, Allison.
July 5th. Take me and a buddy are gonna drive out to the Battle Creek Air Show.
Well, let's go ahead, Allison. If you come back on, you can interrupt here if that's all right, or we'll bring you in after Jacky.
I'm just kind of curious.
Oh, good.
Is Tim focusing on a particular answer? I mean, has he got a question that is formed and he's looking to answer it with this particular data set?
Yes, go ahead, Tim. Answer that. That's a good question. Very good answer.
Absolutely, Fred. Thank you for that question. So,
I'm back, Tim. I'm back. I have a question for you.
Hold on, Allison. Go ahead, Tim.
So Fred's question was, are we actually looking to accomplish anything from this 83 county FOIA? Because, and the answer is yes. Real quick, we do have the statewide data. We are getting the data from county to county. The data does not match. We knew that would happen already. So why are we asking for it again? Is to further provide proof and evidence that when you ask for a list of voters, our system designed by the BOE is designed not to give you an accurate list of voters. So the county clerk upload after county certification an accurate list of voters up, we get an inaccurate list of voters down. And we're proving that time and time again. Thank you,
Okay.
Fred.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead, Allison, and then we'll have to move on. Go ahead, Allison.
Okay, I was just going to try and type it in the chat. What is their excuse or rationale for why they are not providing you with the same consistent data that when your request is consistent? In other words, you've got multiple counties giving you different crap. What's their excuse?
It's not an excuse. They're stating the facts. And we're getting this written evidence from them that the state of Michigan data is, the history is live information, which is vote history records are constantly changing, which is a violation of, number one, law and federal law. And number two, they should be locking these vote history records. They should lock them down, no changes, but yet the system's not designed to accommodate that.
Okay, I'll talk to you offline, but I got a suggestion.
Yeah, talk to him offline. That's good. And well, Chris, can we come back to you at the end if we have time? Because we've
Okay.
got
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, no
Well,
problem.
I just think it's important to say that I'm not sure we can say that the system was designed to do X or Y. I mean, I'm not sure we know that. We know the outcome is that they don't match. I guess we're not, I don't think we can be sure it was specifically designed that way, but
that's a good
that's
point.
just me.
We know that there's garbage coming out, and we don't know who or why they put the garbage in.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the garbage is
Thank
in.
you.
All right,
That's all
thank
I've
you.
got.
Thank you. That's a good comment. All right, now we have really important news we need to talk about here, and I want to be sure that we have time for it. Everything's really important, but this is really time sensitive, and that is that this Friday, the as our former speaker Paul Jacobs mentioned, there is a Board of State Canvassers meeting, but this is also where they're discussing the ranked choice voting 100-word summary. So Jacky is going to talk to us a little bit about chapters coming on board, and then she and Darlene are going to fill us in on ranked choice voting. So go ahead, Jacky, you lead us off.
Okay, so over the last 2 weeks, we have managed to bring in Gladwin County, Jackson County. We're working on getting Monroe on board, which is another big boon, especially considering there are many highway rest areas in Monroe and Jackson that will likely need volunteers for when we pass out palm card literature on the 4th of July weekend to educate the public about the dangers of ranked choice voting if this 100-word summary gets approved by the board. But I want to emphasize right now that the most pressing and immediate need is for people to come make public comment at the Board of State Canvassers meeting, which is tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Now, we are having a training right after this meeting. I'm going to post the link in the chat. You are welcome to come to this meeting. It is a public comment training meeting. What we would like to do is equip you as concerned citizens of Michigan who want to give your opinions, your thoughts on the 100-word summary that would be on the petition to get ranked choice voting on the ballot for the November 2026 election. We want to train you so that you know all of the details about how to do this effectively. We know that the ranked choice voting people will be showing up in droves to give public comment in support of that 100-word summary. And I think it's absolutely imperative that we also have a presence there and make our voices heard. So that is the link to the meeting at 1 o'clock, where I will be training everybody on how to give an effective public comment with other details such as what time to be there, because we expect that the room will be very packed well before 9. Information about parking, directions, how to get there, how to keep everything concise. It has to be only 1 minute because they're likely not going to allow more than 1 minute. You'll want to bring copies of your comment so that you can present them to the board. So we'll go over all of those details. And then one other thing I want to add is that we would like to know if you plan on attending that, so I can make sure that we have printed copies of 1 minute public comment statements available for you in the event that you don't have any of your own, or you bring people with you, fellow friends, activists, family members who want to come as well, who don't have a public comment. So feel free to click on the link I just sent that goes to a Google form. That Google form is just letting me know that you plan to attend, and I'll be able to then keep track of who will be there so we can have enough resources for everybody wanting to give public comment. So that's pretty much everything I have to say about that at this time, because I know we only have technically 4 minutes left of this meeting. And if there's, Darlene, if you want to make any statements as well about ranked choice voting or our initiatives, feel free to do so.
No, you've covered everything. Thank you so much, Jay.
Well, then I'll pipe in because I don't think we can underestimate the importance of the Board of State Canvassers meeting, because what happened in the past is that the Board of State Canvassers tends to accept the language of 100-word petitions, and those 100-word summaries. Those 100-word summaries are pretty much all that voters quite often will look at. And if they are not honest, and if they are not complete, they are deceiving the public. And we have an opportunity to make this wording be honest and And sometimes when we do that, we've done that with national popular vote, and when we made it honest, they withdrew their petition because they knew it couldn't pass if it was honest. So it's really very important to go to that meeting and talk about the 100 words and what is wrong with them. Go ahead, Kristine. Oh, so you're muted, and I think you're shaking your head that it's just a residual hand. Okay. Yes, go ahead.
If I could just jump in super quickly, I apologize. I just want to mention to everybody so we're all aware, the language did change this week. So if you had already submitted a public comment prior to Tuesday at noon, anything that you submitted will no longer count because the language is completely different. When I say completely, I mean it is a completely different 100-word summary in its entirety. It is not at all what it was before. So that is again why I'm emphasizing tomorrow coming in person is our last opportunity to comment on this brand new language that was introduced Tuesday at noon.
Can you tell us what the differences are? Some of the important differences?
Yeah, I can actually copy and paste it into the chat so you can see for yourself. But major differences are that they took out everything that originally sounded like it could be good to pro-election integrity activists, like the need for audits or the need to hold on to election ballots and everything for 2 years, or the need for paper ballots. That's all been removed. It's been completely removed. This is the new language. It's completely different. It talks about, it's more focused on ranking candidates and allowing ranking candidates at local municipalities as well as at the state level. So you can take a look at there for yourself in the chat and see it's totally, totally different.
So that's a very bad sign. That means they think they can get it passed without throwing the other people a bone, even though they wouldn't probably honor it.
This is the devious nature of how the Canvas board is manipulated by those who are full-time activists at the board. I would like to ask Dee, she sent out a letter, email, and has that been updated? And also, again, the last minute 100% switch on the 100-word summary is to keep us off balance, to keep us unawares, so that anything we planned as far as a countermeasure is thrown out first blush. You can't even discuss what happened because we changed everything. That's no longer valid, and they dismiss everything, as you said.
I believe that this was rewritten by the assistant director of Board of Elections. Otherwise, he looked at the language, threw out all the stuff that was in already law, and wrote in what their real petition was all about. So I don't think it was the Michigan.
It was not Brader. It wasn't Brader. It was the guy who wrote the memo that Tim was talking about.
That is
it's
right.
That guy.
That's right.
It's happening on his watch.
Yes.
The guy that wrote it, he is the deputy. He's the deputy director while Brader is on paternity leave right now. So I see Fracassi at all the meetings. I've been, for 2 years. Brader never comes, but Fracassi comes to all of them. So Fracassi wrote it, and he also wrote one of, I don't know if it was only Citizens Vote or whatever, but yeah. So they have a lot of authority in the language. So.
Dee would like to respond to Fred's question, if I may, Patrice.
Please.
So the email that I sent out to my personal network and the email that was sent out via the Washtenaw GOP contains the new language and the new recommended talking points that were produced by PIME Michigan over the last 24 hours. Quick reaction. So I hope that addresses your concern, Fred.
Yes, thank you very much, Dee. On point as always.
Yep. So does everybody have the link for the next meeting, which is, I thought that Jacky was going to put it in the chat, and I think she probably did. So
yeah, she did.
Okay, so everybody can click on that and just go right on over. All righty.
I just reposted it. I just reposted it in the chat.
Oh, good. Yeah, it's a long one.
It's a long one.
It's a long one. Good.
Okay.
All right. Well, thanks for joining, everybody. As always, we covered a lot of territory, and don't miss next week. It's our 3rd year anniversary of becoming a C3, and what a lineup we have. We're not even done adding to the lineup, so we might end up having to extend it by a little bit in time wise, because I don't know how I'd cut some of these people off. So anyway, thank you so much for coming, everybody. Appreciate it very much. Bye.